Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. Now, I regret to inform you that Queers for Palestine has some competition in the Lefties Losing It space. Sorry, QFP, but a new clown show has joined the chat. It's FFP, Fatties for Palestine. Oh yes, that's a thing now. Yes, they even have their own shirts, and you can get one too if you want, but the size range is rather limited.
Are you fat? Are you pro-Palestine? Boy, do I have a shirt for you. Hey, look what I just got. Isn't it beautiful? Fatties for Palestine. What a concept. So these are available in an extra large to a 6X. So basically, you know, it's just fat folks showing their solidarity because oppression recognizes oppression, and all oppression is interconnected. My only complaint is I wish it came in other colors than white, because I already got a coffee stain on mine. But you know what? It's okay. The money went to where it was supposed to go to. Free Palestine. Go get one.
Did you hear that? Oppression recognises oppression, and all oppression is interconnected. That's that warped intersectional dogma, just more neo-Marxist lunacy. And can we stop pretending that fatties are an oppressed group? You literally have more food than you need. Most of the world's population over most of the history of mankind would be thrilled with that. Now back to Fatties for Palestine, and they are making an appearance on university campuses as well. You can't miss them.
We're here at UMass's campus supporting the students in their encampment. They're demanding for divestment from war profiteers and warmongers. I'm here with Yafa, who just spoke to the students in like the most inspiring, beautiful way, and I think really rejuvenated the crowd.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be out here. If you're able to come out, come out. If you're not in Massachusetts or Western Massachusetts, go out to an encampment near you. Students all around are starting these encampments everywhere.
Yes, this movement is growing at a rapid pace. I can't wait to see what these Lefties Losing It will come up with next. Now let's look at a sketch mocking the excesses of the woke mind virus. Remember the board game Guess Who? It's still around and still good, wholesome family fun. But is the game truly inclusive? Does it cater for demi-boys and non-binary pansexuals? It does now.
Hey kids, who wants to play Guess Who?
I don't like that game. It's not inclusive.
Yeah, it only has 2 genders.
Not anymore!
Yay!
Introducing the all-new Guess Who, now with all 437 genders.
Is your person by gender?
Mom, you cannot determine someone's gender based on their appearance. That's disrespectful and offensive.
Is your person a demi-boy?
Identifying someone solely based on their gender is reductive and offensive.
Does your person look like someone who is trying to adopt the appearance of a traditional female?
Privileging traditional gender stereotypes is patriarchal and offensive.
437 gender Guess Who. Great for the whole family. Family may include, but is not limited to, single-parent families, blended families, chosen families, LGBTQIA+ families, and should not be defined solely based on blood relations or legal ties, and can be found in friendships, communities, and other relationships where everyone feels valued and respected for who they are.
This game has too many pieces.
It's taking forever.
Do you want this game to be easy to play? Or do you want us to be inclusive?
Inclusive.
437 gender Guess Who. Hours of endless fun. Fun is not meant to suggest an enjoyable or pleasurable experience, but rather one that elicits a feeling of smug self-satisfaction about being on the right side of history and a sense of superiority over others who are not as enlightened or evolved.
Oh, we like a good parody on this program. Now, I wish this next clip was parody like the last one, but it's sadly all too real. Here is an American couple who take their young children for an exciting, enriching overseas holiday to Afghanistan. You know, the country ruled by the Taliban, the barbaric Islamist tyrants that stop girls from going to school, that stone women to death for sorcery, that torture and kill anyone who challenges their backward savagery. Yes, let's take the whole family there. The chickpea soup is delicious.
We are here from the United States of America. We chose to come here to Afghanistan in May of 2024, and we found Let's Go Afghanistan online, and it has been a great tour.
We crossed the border in Tajikistan, came down through Kunduz, spent a couple of days in Bamiyan, now a couple of days here in Kabul, and then we will exit through the Pakistan border.
We enjoyed the food, we enjoyed the culture, we enjoyed the history, the archaeology, we enjoyed meeting people. That was probably the best part of the whole trip.
And we would encourage you to come to Afghanistan soon with Let's Go Afghanistan.
Now I'm going to play you a short clip of Eric Trump referring to the swing of African American voters to Trump, and then an epic lefty losing it moment on X.
And you see them swing. You look at the African American vote, right? That swing over to Donald Trump in spades.
Now here's the lefty Democrat losing it because Eric Trump used the phrase in spades. Alex Cole tweeted, "This MF really called black people spades? Holy shit, these people are so racist. They don't realise they're racist. Black people will be swinging over to Donald Trump in spades. Wow." Now, I've got to say, I first thought this was a comedy account, but it's sadly not. This lefty losing it is Alex Cole, who has around 150,000 followers on X. He says he's a pilot, a software engineer and an editor. He's very busy, obviously, and he's clearly not the only race-baiting Democrat with major comprehension issues, because that demented tweet had thousands of likes. Talk about low information voters. Now, I'm sure we'll be discussing more lefties losing it with my next guest. I'm absolutely thrilled to have Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's a former deputy assistant to Donald Trump and the host of America First with Sebastian Gorka. Welcome back to the program, Dr. Gorka. You were in that courtroom for this hush money trial. You wrote a fantastic piece about it on your Substack. And it really was a trial with an unashamedly partisan judge brought by a prosecutor. He got into office on a Get Trump campaign. And you wrote of what you saw. You were in that courtroom and you wrote of Judge Merchan's bias in a back and forth lasting for hours with scores of requests from either side. Merchan accepted every demand from Alvin Bragg's team, the prosecutor, and none from the defence. At one point, he even said to the president's attorney as he was standing up and preparing to make a point, "Sit down, I don't want to hear from you again." Do you think this is why we didn't have cameras in that courtroom? An attempt to hide from the public just what a hit job this was?
Oh, utterly. I mean, as the former Attorney General who was with me, with the President, Matt Whitaker, said when we had our press conference outside, he said the judge should be wearing the jersey of the prosecution. This was a stitch-up. This was a hatchet job. I mean, look at the fact that the person prosecuting for Alvin Bragg, who, as you say, campaigned, because we have this weird thing where we have prosecutors who are elected to office, campaigned on putting President Trump in prison, a man who, by the way, was also funded by George Soros in that campaign. And then who's his line prosecutor in the case? Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. Matthew Colangelo. Who's Matthew Colangelo? Well, he parachuted in from the stinking swamp that is Washington, D.C., where he was the number 3, the third most senior law enforcement officer in Biden's Department of Justice. Never before in the history of federal law enforcement does the third highest ranking official in the federal Department of Justice just magically fall all the way down the snakes and ladders to become a line prosecutor in a local court in New York. Why did he take that massive pay cut? Because he's doing the bidding of Joe Biden in that courtroom. The whole thing was a farrago. Look, the way to understand this, and President Trump even quoted my Substack article today on his Truth Social feed, is that this is how they want to steal the election before the first ballot is even cast. They know President Trump is going to win. Why? New Jersey is a Democrat state. President Trump goes there and 100,000 working class minority Americans go to see President Trump. Biden is toast if we have a free and fair election. That's why they want to put President Trump in prison on July 11th.
You talked about the third ranking Justice Department dude coming down to this local court to be a prosecutor. I mean, how do we have a local court in Manhattan prosecuting federal election crimes? I mean, on the face of it, it seems so absurd. We've had so many legal experts talk about the massive inconsistencies and just extraordinary things they have seen in this trial. And yet there was a poll out today showing that around 53% of Americans think this was a fair trial. How can that be?
Well, because they listen to propaganda whores like CNN and the Washington Post. I mean, that's why. I mean, even your chyron and your introduction is a talking point for the mainstream lying legacy media. Hush money trial. It's not a hush money trial. It's a non-disclosure agreement. I signed a non-disclosure agreement with Mr. Trump in 2015 when I came on board to be his national security advisor for the debates. An NDA is a completely standard business practice in Australia, in the UK, in America, and this is it's a fabricated crime. The statute of limitations expired 5 years ago for what they charged him with, which is a misstatement on a financial internal document where he said this is legal fees. Well, it was because he was paying his lawyer. And then they come up with this Rube Goldberg lunatic thing that, the hush money so-called payment was made to protect the president's reputation during an election. Therefore, it should have been paid for from the campaign fund. But here's where it gets bizarre. When was that payment to the president's lawyer made? This is an important point. January after the election. How can you undermine an election 3 months after the election occurred, unless the check went into, H.G. Wells's time machine and went back in time? The whole thing is a fabrication. Oh, and your other point is completely well taken. It's a federal election. So what is a state court in New York doing, trying to prosecute a federal election allegation? The Federal Election Commission deemed there to be no crime. Alvin Bragg's predecessor in New York, Cy Vance Jr., said, sorry, no crime here. Oh, but President Trump becomes the nominee for the Republicans. He's beating Joe Biden in 6 of the 6 battleground states. Now we're going to charge him with a trumped-up felony. Everybody sees through this who's awake, has her eyes open, and has a pulse.
Now, you were in court. You know President Trump. Did he appear rattled at any point when those verdicts came through and the 34 guilties? Did you sense that he felt fear or despair?
This man is quite remarkable. I've never seen him show fear since I've known him since 2015. Look, he said something quite moving that day. He said that I am prepared to go to prison because the U.S. Constitution is more important than my liberty. What person says that? I mean, let alone what politician? He says, I'm doing this for all of you. It's not about me. And he's right. I mean, Donald Trump, without any question, is the most famous man in the world. He's a billionaire. He's a person who's escorted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by Secret Service agents carrying fully automatic weapons. That man is very clear about one thing. If they can do it to him, they can do it to any American. And that's why he will never, ever stop. And as he said last Thursday, standing in that dingy corridor under that neon lighting, the real verdict will be on November the 5th when the American people speak.
Well, this lawfare, there are now debates happening amongst conservatives. Some say Republicans must take the high road. They can't play these dirty games that the Democrats have played. And others say, no, this is the only way to deal with this strategy, is to throw it back at them. And there's suggestions, if you want to talk about election interference, what about that letter that was signed by 51 national security experts? Where did that letter originate from? Who had a hand in crafting it? Those 51 security experts who claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop and all the information contained within it about the Biden family was Russian disinformation. That came out right before the 2020 election to discredit that New York Post story. And you could argue very easily that was a clear case of election interference. Did the likes of the Biden campaign, Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken, did they have any hand in spreading that message? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think the Republicans are going to go after Joe Biden, go after Hillary Clinton and other Democrats as they've gone against their ideological opponents?
Well, first things first, we know who orchestrated that. It is Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, and Mike Morrell. Mike Morrell has confessed under testimony in front of the House of Representatives as acting director of the CIA, which should be a completely non-political position. He orchestrated the signatures of those 51 former CIA directors and intelligence officers to lie about the Hunter Biden laptop, which we now know is true. The photographs, the video, the prostitutes, the guns, the cocaine, it's all real. And they said, oh, this is a Russian disinformation. That's the acting director of the CIA. That is the definition of the deep state. Now, what are the Republicans going to do? Now, first things first, they're not going to go after their political, ideological opponents, because then we sink to the gutter of those who believe that the state is there as a political weapon. What we must go after, not politically, but in the terms of justice, is those who have committed crimes. If you worked in the Trump administration and leaked secret documents to the Washington Post, to the CNN, you committed a felony. If you're Jim Comey, former director of the FBI, if you're James Clapper, John Brennan, director of the DIA and the CIA, you affected the illegal surveillance of a presidential candidate. It's Operation Crossfire Hurricane. You use the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world as a political tool. You must be charged with abuse of power, and you must stand in a dock and answer for your crimes and be judged by a jury of your peers. So, unless we restore faith in our institutions, I mean, the biggest, President Trump is doing great. He's raised $200 million in the last 72 hours. I mean, never before seen since the verdict. But God willing, if we have a free and fair election, he will be reelected and he will be the president, whether he's convicted or not. But the bigger problem is this, Rita. On Thursday, tens of millions of Americans lost complete and utter faith in the judicial system and the organs of the state that have the power to imprison. That takes much longer than one election to fix. Tens of millions of Americans say, hang on a second, the FBI, the DOJ, the state of New York, if they don't like my face, if they don't like my politics, they can put me in prison for years. That's the real damage done to the republic, and that has been done by the Democrats.
Now, the effect of this trial on the polls, it appears to be mixed. There's a new ABC poll suggesting perceptions of Donald Trump and Joe Biden are statistically unchanged from before the verdict was announced. A Reuters poll says that 1 in 10 Republicans are less likely to vote for Trump post-verdict than they were before. There's been a number of other polls, I talked about them over the weekend, that showed Trump's support actually improved after the conviction. What do you think the impact of this case, this conviction, is going to be in November on Trump's chances of being elected president?
Well, it's very simple. Just look at what happened. $70 million in 48 hours from small donors. Then we have another $130 million from big institutional donors. That's $200 million in 72 hours. Forget polls. Look at, and go, if you go to my Twitter feed, because I'm on social media a lot, and when you see Democrats who bring the receipts, and by name, they say, I'm a Democrat, I voted Democrat all my life, I'm voting for President Trump, and I just donated to his campaign. And there's a screenshot, John Smith donated $100. I've never seen that before. I've never seen Democrats openly on a social media platform where they face cancellation and they self-dox themselves saying, I've had it. This is beyond party politics. But we know what? If any other person had been accused of misstating a business entry for their accounting 7 years ago, they wouldn't be in the dock. They wouldn't be convicted of 34 made-up felonies. The only reason is it's President Trump. The only reason is he is the threat of all threats to the uniparty, to the Democrats and the fake conservative Republican in name only rhinos. That's why he must be stopped. This is the only man who isn't owned by any special interest group. Not the unions, not Big Pharma, not Big Oil, not the military-industrial complex. Nobody owns my former boss. And as such, he must be stopped. And this is how they think they can stop him. But the wry thing about all this is, what do Americans love more than anything else? From Clint Eastwood to, Dirty Harry, all of those things. We love outlaws. We love cowboys. Why is hashtag outlaw president trending? Because they've made him an outlaw, and Americans love outlaws.
Well, it's incredible because even the term convicted felon, which they were using, and I saw one of the Soros son saying we've got to get this tag attached to Trump anytime he's mentioned, say convicted felon. They've completely changed the meaning of that because that was trending on Twitter, but it was trending because Republicans were pledging to vote for a convicted felon, not because Democrats were using that term. So in that way, it has backfired, certainly with the donations that have been raised. And I look forward to speaking to you again before the November poll. Dr. Gorka, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Check out my Substack and follow me on Twitter. God bless you.